Hello and welcome to the Comedians Paradise. This is where we talk to comedians and performers from across the comedy world. Now, today's guest is a proper. He's come all the way from New York. His name is Nya Yeanafehn, and he's come to Germany because he loves the sauerkraut. He's like, I'm leaving New York City. Like, I don't want to deal with any of the dodginess. I want to deal with the dodginess of German people who love sauerkraut. Please welcome Nya Yeanafehn.
The land of sauerkraut. Thank you very much for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
That's all I know about. I know the Berlin Wall. I know about the history with the World War Two, World War One. I know that Berlin is a great art scene, and I know that the only food I know is Germans like their sausages and they like their sauerkraut. That's all I know. And obviously the beer festival in October.
Yeah, yeah. Oktoberfest.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
what's your so you come all the way from Germany, like what made you be like, I'm leaving New York, I don't want to deal with Little Italy, or I don't want to deal with any dodgy things there, I want to go to Germany for the sauerkraut. What made you go for the sauerkraut in Germany?
Mm. Well, that's a good question. The reason why I moved from New York City over to Berlin is really because of stand-up comedy. And I know that sounds crazy. Like what I did is it was me and another, I don't know if you know him, his name is Alex Payne. It was me and Alex. We basically was traveling around Europe doing stand-up comedy last year. And this is around April. And we went to a couple places, went to Paris, we went to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, went to Berlin, came back to Paris. And then at that point, he went to London, and then I came back to Berlin. And during that time, with doing stand-up comedy across these multiple countries and cities, it was just very dope. It was just something. It was an experience that I never really experienced before. Thought you could have experienced. So while I was in Berlin, I was doing a lot of spots, and it kind of reminded me of New York in a sense. And then also, I came across some very funny comedians as well that I became close to. And eventually, some of the comedians that were out there, they were just like, "All right, so when are you gonna move here?" 'Cause I was there for like about a couple of weeks, and I was like, "Move? I'm gonna move there? How we need to move there? I don't even know how to even get a visa. What are we talking about?" And he broke it down that I can get an artist visa in which you pretty much prove that the art that you do can make you an income that you can live off of in Berlin, and then they'll give you a visa. So I didn't even know that was even possible. So when I heard about this, my mind was just turning like, all right, yo, like maybe this is something because also the momentum was going too. A lot of people was coming to the shows, and people were like, "Hey, where else can I find you?" And X, Y. And so like also the receptance from the audience as well. Whenever I was performing, was strong. Like it was just like people were like, "Hey, where can I find you? When's your next gig? X, Y, and Z." And even in London too, that happened. I mean, when we first met, and then some other places. So it was a different type of energy that I did not get or have experienced with other comedians in New York City. So by the time I came back, man, it just was in my mind like, yo, it's one life to live. Like, I might as well do it. There's an opportunity here. Like I just went ahead and did it. I went ahead and did it. I sold everything in New York City, sold everything in my apartment, put everything into a carry-on suitcase and a book bag, and just came out to Berlin and figured it out. I didn't even have a place to stay really. I mean, I knew a friend that had a couch, a big couch, so that was dope. But other than that, that's the reason why I moved from New York City to Berlin.
And what is it that you like about, like, the Germans? What is it that you like about Berlin so far, as opposed to New York? What is it that makes you love the city?
What makes me really love the city of Berlin is that it's very diverse, diverse in a different way, right? So, you got people from like Eastern Europe, you got people from Turkey, you got people from Iran, you got people from like Middle Eastern country, you got people from like even the States, I met a lot of people from the States, even New York. So you just have like a mix of a lot of people in one space. And then also it's a city in which is you could find a lot of artists anywhere you go. So everyone in their mom is doing some type of art. You might talk to somebody who's a project manager, but then they might be doing some DJ, or they might be like a painter or something. And then this is a city that point blank gives you a visa in which you can live here, or give you some type of residency permit based on you being an artist, which I never heard that before. It's like you're giving me a visa because I'm an artist. That is wild. So I love that just for the fact of like you're able to live here for X amount of years because we recognize your art to be of value.
Well, okay, that's interesting. And what was the process like? Was it straightforward? Was it difficult? Was it what was the what was that like?
Yeah, so the artist visa process is I ain't gonna lie to you. It is straightforward in comparison to other visas. I mean, like, you try to get an artist visa in America is extremely difficult. You basically gotta be a celebrity to get that or a lot of money. But in terms of the artist visa process in Berlin, really the biggest hurdle is you have to find a place where you're able to register your name to the address. And a lot of people don't offer that because sometimes that might affect like the actual rent that that person may pay, or it's just kind of complicated. Or point blank, did you already have enough people uh, that have their name registered to that address? So like that's the biggest one. And then second, you gotta have a certain amount of savings or so. So I think like the amount there usually one is like about 10,000 or so. That's like information you'll find anywhere online. And then third is just you have to print out all the flyers, any type of documentation, press, what have you, that like proves that hey, you're an actual artist. Like if you coming in as a DJ, what type of articles or flyers or any type of correspondence you have to prove that you are a DJ. Or in this case, for me as a stand-up comedian, like I print out all the flyers that I was on, social media stuff. I actually created a German CV where like I was like, hey, time of stand-up comedian. I started at this date and still till present. And here are the gigs that I've done, like listed. Add like a little summary, like Nya Yeanafehn is a performer that blah 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 blah. Started in New York City, so I had to like professionally showcase that hey, I'm a stand-up comedian, which that was interesting. That was interesting to do.
And did you have to get people to vouch for you as well, and just say yo Nya is dope.
Yeah, so you gotta get letter of recommendation, a letter of intent. So like I think letter of intent is basically saying like, hey, this we plan on hiring this person as this type of artist, so me a stand-up comedian, and we'll pay him X amount, so you have that. And then another is just like I think recommendation or something of basically if he becomes if once he gets artist visa, we'll hire him as a stand-up comedian. So those are like the documentation you need. And they have to write it out. They have to write it out not write it out, but type it out, and you have to print it. So you have to like present it to them, printed form, like, hey, these are people that will vouch for me or would hire me as a stand-up comedian once I get this artist visa.
And with Berlin as well, I hear this about Europe, right? I hear that in Europe they all speak English, and is that basically the scene in Berlin? Like you don't have to really learn any German as a whole. I hear that their English is proper top notch.
Yeah, the English is pretty good. I mean, you're gonna run into some spots where people don't speak English. Like, I mean, because sometimes German is like someone's second or third language, and like they already speak multiple languages, so German is already enough. So you might run into that, but for the most part, everyone speaks English. You don't have to. They say you don't have to learn German in order to live in Berlin. Some people live here 10 plus years, never learned the language, but that depends on how you want to live here in Berlin. I mean, to live in a to live in a country for that long, like 5, 10 years, and not know the basic language of the country you're in. I don't know how that I don't know how that could be sustainable for me personally, because it's like, all right, I want to eventually connect. Like, I want to be able to talk to the government office if I have an issue. Like, I don't want to have to find a translator 5, 10 years later and be like, hey, something's broken in my flat. Can somebody translate how to talk to my landlord to fix this?
Yeah. What are some horror stories you heard?
Or story. Oh, you talking about where in Berlin?
Yeah, of them not knowing it.
I mean, well, okay, so horror stories related to trying to learn German. So it's not a horror story. It's more interesting that. So at this point right now, I'm like, my German level is at a level where I tell you what I want, but I don't want you to talk back to me. So I tell you what, I just make commands. You just follow it. I don't want no any. If I ask for one coffee, give me one coffee. I don't ask me if I want any milk with that. Just know I will let you know if I want that. Right, but But so I was at a restaurant. It was me and a friend, and I'm able to order stuff from the menu. So I'm able to say like, oh, ich hatte gern, or kann ich einen Kaffee und Kartoffel, which is potatoes. I don't know, coffee potatoes, right? So again, makes orders like that, and then know how to like interpret like numbers. So if somebody tells me the price, I'm like, not like what, or like I might be like, wie viel, like how much. So I was making all these orders in German to this waitress, get the food, eating the food and everything. Me and the other person, so she went to the bathroom, right? So and she speaks German, so she went to the bathroom and stuff. So I'm sitting down, and then the person comes back and asks me a question in German that I don't understand. I only know so much, but she asked me this question. I didn't understand. So I was just like, yeah. And she was like, and she asked it again. And I'm like, oh, this is a question that requires more than a yes or no. So I just basically was like, all right, I don't speak any German. I'm sorry. And then she was very confused. And she was like, what? She was like, but you spoke German like up to this point. So what just happened? I was like, yeah, I only know like so much. She was like, but how much do you know that you was able to do all that till now? Like she was just really confused because she was like, you I thought you really like what's going on? Like, why are you what? I don't like she couldn't even process it. So that was weird to me. Cause I was like, oh wow, like I guess I spoke enough for her to think that I could fully speak German, but I actually don't. And when I was telling her, she was like, how'd you get this far? Like what what's you already made it this far. Like, why are you stopping? Like, what's going on?
And then what happened? And then you sorted it out. You got some new coffees. You got some new, and she. How did it end?
I mean, she just walked. She kind of. I mean, she was, gathering the dishes. We already ate already, so like, she just kind of walked away, just confused. Like, she was just really kind of like, huh, like, wow, like, how is this person able to order all this stuff? I told him the price. He understands that. He's able to ask things in German. But then when I ask this question, he just says, I don't speak that much German. It's like you clearly spoke enough for you to eat and pay. Like, what do you mean you don't know how to speak German?
And does that help you with the comedy as well in Berlin because of situations like that?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this exotic
Oh,
foreigner.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess because also the experiences I'm going through, many people have gone through that before, and then on top of it, I think me as well, I kind of come in head first with it. So like, again, I don't know that much, but I'll come in acting like I know all of it. So I ain't shy with the little bit of German I know. So I'll come in and be ordering like as if as if I'm a regular. So some people will just be like, "Oh, wow, this person's very confident. He's saying the German words. Of course, they speak German." And then when they say something or try to ask me additional questions, I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I don't actually speak German." But let's continue the conversation. It's like, "What? Wait, let's take it back. What's going on? Why? What?
Can you do any jokes in German or banter in German?
Not yet. I'm not at the level to fully express myself, or even to that extent. So I'm just a command person. So I don't want to. So I just make commands in German at this point. So I'm basically like a German boss or something. I don't know.
And with the what they say that for people that aren't in Germany or Berlin, they say Germans don't have a sense of humor. How wrong is that? What's their sense of humor? Are they more lighter than New York? Is New York a bit more crude or brutal? What's how have you adjusted to their humor?
Hmm. How adjusted to the humor? I would say that German humor could be a little colder, right? Like in terms of it's colder in terms of just how literal certain German people can be, right? So, like for example, if you say something and maybe you're trying to be sarcastic or something, that they may not take that as sarcasm, but rather as like actual fact, which is kind of unique because sometimes it's like, all right, this is so absurd, like you know it's a joke, right? And they're kind of like, well, you said this and this, and like so sometimes they can be very literal with certain things, but I mean, there's a common perception of Germans being cold, and to be honest, um, yeah, I don't know, bro. This is actually an interesting question because yes, they are, but it's not. maybe I got used to it. Maybe I'm understanding why. So it's almost kind of like a, like when you have a stereotype about something, but then once you understand deeper, it's kind of like not even a stereotype anymore. There's like an actual rationale behind it, or it's like a,
Oh,
the
okay.
reason like further. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm not too, yeah. So I would say let's say for the most part, it will kind of, you, if you make a joke, they may not like have a facial response. So that is one actually. They may
Oh,
not have a facial response. They may enjoy it, but they might not have a response of how well they're enjoying it. So they might really enjoy it, but they really may not show you.
what? So how do you know if it's working?
Yeah. Um,
Whoa, that's
sometimes you
interesting.
don't. I mean, sometimes you sometimes it's a matter of like just knowing that the way they enjoy stuff is
Yeah.
not to the way we enjoy it. I.e., like, because I mean, in London, somebody likes something, they're gonna laugh, mouth open, this and that, laughing. But in Germany, when somebody enjoys something, their emotions may be muted. So there's been times where I've seen people do jokes and they have somebody like laughing, crying, but you don't even know you can't even find the person who's laughing or crying until somebody points it out.
Oh,
Like, yeah, I've seen that happen. When I was at a German comedy show, I didn't speak any German, but I knew the people that were going up. I know their bits in English, like they do English comedy, but they also speak German, right? So they're up there. I'm just observing, and it's at this outdoor event. And then basically they're saying the bits in German. I understand where they're going with it because I know their bits, and this guy on stage, his name is Ludwig. He was doing his jokes and he's doing good. So he's doing good. And then one of my friends, his name's Eunice, he basically was pointing out, he's like, yo, man, look, he's doing good. Yo, he got these two girls crying, like crying and laughter. I was like, what? Where? So I was like, look, I'm like, yo, where are these people laughing, crying and laughing? And then he was like, no, right there. So he had to point it out to me. And once I saw, literally this woman was like holding back her tears. She was doing like this and she was like really laughing, holding her mouth. But it was wild to me. I'm like, did I had to find and search really hard, and then someone had to point it out to me that someone is laughing so hard that they were crying, and I never knew that could happen. Like literally, the stages of laughter, it's like that. That's like you're gonna hear sounds before somebody's like laughing and crying, right? So for that to happen, and then I couldn't feel it or I couldn't hear it, I was like, whoa, this is a different type of repression emotion because like, why you holding back laughter that's so much that is making you cry, like in tears? Wild, bro. Wild.
are are they more? Are they also more brutal, or are they more of the audience where if you're bombing, they just don't respond? Whilst in New York, they probably will let you know in a not
Yeah, New
so
York City
kind
is
way.
more brutal. Yeah, New York City is more brutal. Like New York City will definitely let you know just by the energy they'll provide, like they'll most from their body, like you're bombing. It will be very clear, like, and everyone knows. Like, so it's like a in New York City is you would definitely know like bombing like that is clear and people let it be known or sometimes they just walk out they're like yo this is not good I'm out are you serious like I'm about to sit here and waste my time in New York over somebody that's bombing nah there's even some shows where if you're bombing they start jingling the keys so like crowds out what you're saying so then the keys sounds are louder than you and you have to eventually get off stage.
No, God, that's so brutal. Bloody hell.
Yeah, bro. You know, you definitely have that. But yeah, I say in Germany it's not as brutal because it's almost like yeah, because basically the emotions is almost one and the same in terms of what they're giving to you sometimes. So sometimes it may not be as brutal. It's only brutal. I would say it's only as brutal to your expectations of what you think the joke should get in terms of like, oh, this is my very good joke. I usually get like a lot of laughs or some semi applause for this saying it, and then you don't get that. So maybe that might be brutal in the sense of your expectations not being met. I think sometimes in Europe you because it's new that your expectations are a lot higher or sometimes may be inflated because somebody may just I don't know you might do a room that really like what you're doing but you go into another room where they don't and maybe because you don't encounter that enough times or a lot of times, you may be like, oh damn, like oh, only 3, 4 people clapped and laughed. This can't be good. And it's like, look, I mean, if you look at the percentage of the room, if 20 to 30% of the people are on board, ain't you ain't killing, but ain't like you completely bomb.
Is is there the sort of thing? Because I spoke to Nico White, and he said that there's loads of different kinds of rooms. You got the black Latin rooms, the black rooms, the mainstream rooms, and you got the side that's a bit more artistic. Do you get that
Mm.
in Germany as well? Like the black rooms, the Latin rooms, the mainstream, the arty farty rooms.
You kind of do. I mean, not as much because it's still such a new scene, and so you do have some rooms where you might find more black people. Like, I think it just really comes down to who's doing the comedy, right? So, like, since I moved here, you got other people, other comedians that are black as well, and whoever it is, what it is. If my face is on a flyer, black people are coming out. But if like, oh, there's a black dude that's on, he's here, he has the show, he's probably gonna have an experience that I can relate to. You know what I mean? So I'd say that there are some rooms like that. It comes down to the host. Like, I mean, if you have a host that looks like very artsy fartsy or something, as you said it, I mean, not black people are not coming out to artsy fartsy stuff in mass. Like, that's not a they're not looking for that. In my experience, you
What
know what I mean?
have you seen any brutal sort of responses? Because I know that I've seen it. I find it sometimes. This may sound a bit sadistic and not right way, but sometimes I find it funny as a promoter and as a comedian watching how the audience responds to a comedian. It's always good when they respond well, but sometimes on the wrong note, I enjoy seeing how
Mm-hmm.
they respond to them when they don't like him as well. I like their facial expression. I'm that's what I find funny, the way they react to them. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. So I like awkward situations sometimes. So I do know that I laugh at sometimes awkwardness or absurdity. Like, so for example, when you had that show, or
Oh
was it
fucking hell,
that
yes.
happened on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, that shit was insane, right? It was just like, just a lot going on. It was like halfway a political, like debates or something, like a town hall meeting, sort of. It was an interesting situation with comedy included. You had weird sounds that was offensive to yourself, like it was a lot going on.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like that. Yes, there was a lot of things. There was a lot that went on before the gig as well. There was a lot of yeah. There's a lot of things that are. It's my new material night. There was a few things that are going to be changed, but yes, there was. I did expect there to be a political debate between the host and the act before. I just thought, comedy is about expression, right? And you got to be funny and all that. But I just thought, yeah, let him do his stuff, and it was funny. It worked. Yeah, he did quite well. But I don't know. I just thought it was a bit. I really was a bit uncomfortable when she came on stage and did all this stuff on the other side. And you know how dodgy politics is, and a lot of the people. I don't know what they support, and I was thinking, but let's just get on with the show. And there's so many things that went wrong. Yeah, the you got to be careful who you put onto host as well as a promoter. But it was just all craziness, and I think she had a bit of a thing for you as well, so you could have got lucky.
Nah, I think if I did anything, that would have been bad luck. That would have been bad luck for at least 7 years.
Oh bloody hell!
Oh man. Look, everyone lives life in a different tone and manner. And they walk to their own beat. And for her, is a sound of a marching army. I don't know, into parliament. I don't.
But you network with a couple of comics. There was a South African comic from Slovakia, and there's like Jordan Thompson, he did quite well considering what happened, and he's connected in Austin, and he's actually thinking of going to Europe for some. he wants to move to Europe, I think.
Yeah, I was talking to him about that, and yeah, I think he actually said he canceled his ticket and he's thinking about going to other places. So, and I've also talked to some people that have traveled from New York over here as well. And it's the same thing of kind of like how which is different, right? It's like a different experience. But New York City can kind of wear you down in a sense of just how saturated it is. And then also to some of the it's such a mature market, right? To where um to make a living or somewhat of a living out of it, you have to do so many other things. And even that is becoming saturated to some degree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of people are thinking about the move and stuff. I'd say that when it comes to Europe or any countries in Europe, there are some things that you have to keep in mind in terms of moving. It's not like just it's like just this is it and blah blah blah. It's kind of like there's some cons as well. Um, so yeah, but I mean, of course, just the experience alone, I think, is great for anyone to just travel and perform outside of their current city. I mean, even in America, right? Like the first thing that you experience as a comedian who starts at New York City is when you do it for a while in New York City, you go to like say the South or you go somewhere else, and you see how your comedy compares to like say a different market. You realize like, oh my God, like wow, I thought I was here, but I'm actually a little bit up a little bit in other parts of the country or in the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think definitely from what I've seen, like New York's what, yeah, with some of the other cities, definitely. I mean, New York's incredible. I heard things about Austin. I heard that it's like a big comedy mecca, but it's still an emerging city. So it's yeah, New York. New York is like a boxing match, and I think definitely it makes a lot of other cities like small fry, considering all the bullshit that you have to go through there.
Yeah, a lot of bullshit, a lot of bullshit. Yeah.
But I mean, there's this incredible. I've seen some of the things like Usama or something. I remember gigging with him on those mics, and look at what he's done for himself.
Oh yeah, he's a funny dude, man. Funny dude, been doing it for a long time, been at it, been in the in the trenches, just like all of us. And he's definitely, I mean, if not more. And yeah, he was actually in London for a little bit. Actually, he was there. He did like Top Secret. I think he did like a couple nights there. Yeah,
No, he's brilliant, isn't he? He's really something this summer.
that dude funny. That dude funny.
Is from when we were talking before the podcast, you said like better has five different meanings. Could you explain what they are to
Mhm.
people, to the people that are listening in? But also talk about
Mhm.
who are some comics in Germany or Berlin that you think could probably hack it in New York if they went over, considering it's such a saturated
Uh,
city.
well, yeah, I mean, because also, when you out in Europe, some of the references, I get well. Let me answer the first one. The first one in terms of like what is the five? What could be what could be the five possibilities of what's successful or what's like? I guess you said successful, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the top five, I guess, angles of what a successful comedian is, or what's like a top comedian in general. I think the first one is just popularity. I think just everyone's talking about this person, so that can be success in a lot of people's eyes actually. So that and maybe this goes into two and three. Popular in general. Second, huge social media following. I mean, everyone. I mean, at this point, every comedian, every entertainer at this point is really sensitive to their following count and like their social media. So, if your social media is very big and huge, like literally people are making a lot of assumptions in terms of like where you stand in comedy. Like, oh, this person has 600,000 followers. He must be or she must be X, Y, and Z. 600,000 followers. You must be past that. So people even have references to where they're at comically based on their following count or their reach on social media. And we all do it, right? Like, I mean, anyone who has it, like, say, if you saw a comedian has 1 million followers, you're going to make the assumption that they sell out theaters or they sell out uh, at least venues. And if they don't, you're going to be like, whoa, what? I mean, but you have 1 million followers. Why don't you? Blah, 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 right? So you have that. Number three is in terms of like what clubs you're passed into. So, like, for example, if you're passed at a Comedy Cellar, I mean, that, and which is very valid that if you're passed there, it means you're a very good comedian. That's because it's so hard to get in. Like you have to get vouched. have to go through a second interview, interview process in terms of you doing a lot of gigs to see like how much stuff you have, how many bits, what your like how you handle certain like situations. Also, too, there's other clubs in which it's just hard to get in. So if you do get in, it kind of adds like this little thing of like, hey, if I, only these type of comedians can get it. So if you're not in, or if you are in, you must be successful, right? Number four is successful is actually you just being funny as hell. Like you actually just under like everyone named mom, like when you bring up their name, it's like they're funny. Right? Like there's no like like the minute it's like a hesitation, then it's like well, I mean, they may be, I don't know, they ain't like successfully funny, like in a way where it's like undeniable. If you bring up like Donnell Rawlings, very funny. If you bring up who else? Deion Cole, very, like funny. If you bring up Greer Barnes, funny. Even some people that may not be known, like Dave Lester, very funny. Kareem Green, very funny. Um, you got some other dudes out there in Harlem. So like you have that type of success. And then number five is that success. I mean, this one's kind of maybe woo-wowy or something. I don't know, not woo-wowy, but kind of like more artist-like. Is that success for you, like in terms of what you want to do, right? Like, and I think that one's hard to gauge, right? Because again, we like to place a lot of these arbitrary things on what success is, especially as a comedian or artist, right? Like especially those four things I mentioned. But you yourself, because you got some people that are successful in one of those domains, but they're not happy. Like we've seen some people who maybe have like a huge Netflix special or like had a huge budget or has a lot of following, but you can still see like some not sadness, but you can still see some non-contentment with where they are based on the actions they're doing. They're like, oh, well, I want it this way. Well, I don't like it this way. It's kind of like, well, you have $1 million. So that's success in one of these top five things, but you still want more, or you're still not satisfied. So I think number five is probably like the most important, in which you yourself feel successful. Like that's important. That's actually very important.
And who are comedians from Berlin or New York that you've gigged with, and that you would
Mm-hmm.
say fulfill all those things?
That fill all those things. I don't know how to fill all. I mean, uh, well, I guess aside from number five, let me just say in terms of like just funny or maybe like to New York or something like just to go out to New York. This is one dude. His name is Tyrone Stallone, and he's a dude. He's actually from the States. He's actually from LA, and then he been living in Berlin for a while. And like that guy has just lived a life. You know what I mean? So like he has so many stories and things in which that somebody from New York would listen to that and be like, "Wow, that's crazy!" Like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like that, that's funny or that's wild because he lived a life. He lived in America, he lived in South Africa, he lived in different parts of Africa. He traveled all over, and also one thing I like about him is that he's still like sometimes people they live away from their hometown for a long time and it kind of shows, you know with him, it's like anytime I talk with him, it reminds me of like comedy back in the States. Like because we be making jokes, we roasting each other, we say X, Y, and Z. Sometimes he be, sometimes be fucking with you, like, and then you gotta have to like, kind of push back. Like, it's like that type of like banter back and forth where you're like, oh, all right, like, what I mean? This is I like this type of banter back. It reminds me of like the way I used to like communicate with my comedian friends back in New York. Like we used to make jokes about each other, make fun of each other, X, Y, and Z. We doing some, crazy jokes, all this shit, trolling each other, like all these things that somebody might be like, whoa, what? But like in comedy world, it's like, yeah, you only do this with like your people you hang out with all the time.
Hmm. Are Germans like that, or are they a bit more stoic? They're like, no, I'm not doing the voice, but are they a bit more? Come on, what? No, you can't do that. That's
Oh,
wrong.
yeah. Oh,
What
oh,
is?
oh,
You cannot do that.
you defaulted to Arnold Schwarzenegger as a.
I can't.
I mean,
Well,
hey, look. Granted, there's some people in in like Bavaria or like in the south of Germany and Austria that do sound. I've heard some people sound exactly like that. So that ain't
oh,
too far off.
okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good.
So you're doing good. Keep the good work. Yeah, keep up the good work.
But I don't want to. If I do the German accent, it just comes across very stereotypical and very racist. So if I do Arnie, it's not racist. It's him. It's not a particular place. It's him.
It's him, Arnold. Okay, not me though.
But do they
But
sound like that? Are they like, you cannot end up beside me? You're doing it wrong.
um, I mean, I don't think they have like the trailing,
Oh,
so that might be an Arnold thing, like get out of here, they get on the chopper, so you do have some Germans that just they sound regular, got soft voices and stuff. I mean, sometimes you might come to a situation where somebody looks like they might have a soft voice, but it might be like, oh, it's been, you like, ooh, that came off way too deep. I thought you was a nice person.
okay,
It sounds like you're an authoritative figure.
okay. And for with the city as a whole, do you imagine yourself being in there forever, doing comedy, being like a big German comic, and then gigging in New York
Mm,
occasionally?
I don't know, to be honest. I think the methodology I kind of adopted since moving out here is just going with the flow or going to where the momentum is, right? So like, it is a momentum in a place and it's going well. I'm just gonna go with that momentum and not really, add any friction to that. So if there's any momentum that kind of builds back up in New York City, I mean, hey, you might find me back in New York City. But right now, there's a lot of momentum happening here in Berlin and out in places in Europe as well. So it's like, I'm here for now. I mean, well, as long as the visa allows me, and then I have to renew, and then hopefully that extends whatever momentum, the momentum that I have going on so far.
Okay. And if you were to give any advice to comedians that want to come to Berlin, or if you want to give any advice on comedians in general, what advice would you give them?
It's a good question. It's so funny to answer this now because yeah, I would say the advice I would give to a comedian that wants to travel to Europe or wants to live in Europe is that to have a very open mind on what comedy is. I think when you come from certain places, especially like New York City or London, you have an idea of what comedy is, and that is the standard. Like, I mean, that's that. These markets are the places in which comedy comes from, in a sense. So when you're going out further out east, this comedy is still new. So what comedy is to the people there is different than what the comedy is for us to some degree. So when you come out there, you have to have an open mind because for one, you may try to import something that just doesn't translate or doesn't convert to where comedy is now in Europe. So you might, have your thoughts or like how things should be, but in reality, no one's really asking or looking for it. So you might just not be heard or cared about, like, oh, comedy's supposed to blah, 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 blah. For them to like, well, we like it this way. So you're not from here. And if you don't like it here, you can just go back. Like, you know what I mean? Um, so I think to have like an open mind is very important. I think it's like that is the thing because it's easy to import certain ideas or thoughts on what something should be, where in reality it's what it is what it is where you came from, but it may not be is what it is where you're at right now in Europe, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And how do people find out about you?
Yeah, so you can find out about me. So I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Nyamean, Nyamean. On TikTok, you can find me there, but just with the number one at the end. Also, I have a podcast called the Third Culture Talk Podcast, a podcast where we talk to individuals that are living cultures different than their original. So, Third Culture Pod, you can find out on Instagram. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And yeah, if you're ever in Berlin, I run shows on Saturdays, and, in Berlin. So you can always go to my social media. I always post stuff there, and you can find me there.
Right. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys soon. Okay.